All right, I think we're live. I'm just checking last pieces. Yes, we are. Hello and welcome to Inside WholeWellness Talk, raw, real, unfiltered. We are people who love sharing our knowledge. We're life coaches, educators here at Whole Wellness Coaching, and we love sharing what we know with you. So tune in, and if you're watching the recording, please leave us comments. Let us know what whole wellness means to you. And today I have Heather Culpepper, who is a fantastic person, and this is our second live together, and I'm so excited. It just makes my whole week. I've been so looking forward to it. And Heather, her path is nothing but ordinary. She started out studying zoology and running Division 1 track. She became a physical therapist, Pilates and yoga instructor, and now she's a life coach. And she brings it all together, and how it all coming together and across, and it's such an interesting journey and such a wonderful take on how to live whole wellness life, what inside out means, what ease versus dis-ease, and all everything in between we're going to talk about today with Heather. Welcome, Heather. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much.
Well, you and I talked about this, and I know that you say that how we move in the world impacts how we meet the world versus reacting to the world. Can you paint the picture what it actually looks like and maybe feels like in our bodies and our spirit?
Yes, well, I mean, our bodies are not just a physical body. I mean, we are more than that. We are a physical body, we are our emotions, we are our relationships, we are our background, our conditioning, our behaviors. And if we are anxious, tense, stressed out, about whatever, our bodies form a position. So if we're feel threatened or stressed, we're going to brace ourselves. I mean, that's just a natural reaction. So if you're walking around braced because you're stressed out about your job, an argument you had with a loved one or a friend, or you're worried about money, or, you know, do you have a place to live? That armoring and posturing is then how we meet the world. So we're meeting the world from a place of rigid structure in our tissues, which actually sets up a cycle of more stress hormones being released into the body. And then that is, again, how we meet the world, how we meet the world from a place of stress and fear, and the body doesn't know the difference between, a lion chasing you versus your fear that your boss is going to yell at you.
Yes, and I've been going to a chiropractor and massage therapist. I started working when I was going through a divorce, and everything felt like rock hard. And I can really relate that we basically cannot think stress out. We can move it out, and it's so crucial to go against that voice telling, "Go sit on the couch, lay in bed." What would your advice be to how to get moving? The body in motion stays in motion, the body at rest stays in rest. How to not break the physics laws, but how to work with that and just maybe push through and just work on being supple.
Yeah, so I feel like we have to move from the inside out. The top-down approach of making yourself do something works temporarily. I mean, if we have to make ourselves get out of bed, we have to go to work, we have a job, we have things we have to do. But unless you break that cycle of a top-down approach of the brain instructing the body what to do, you'll never break that cycle. I feel like working from a heart coherent space first is how we begin to notice. We have to notice patterns that we're doing. We have to notice patterns of held stress, held behavior. Until you notice that, you can't even begin to change that pattern. So by even if you're stressed out, walking around, I like to teach techniques of finding your own rhythmic breathing, allowing your state to shift, noticing what's going on. And then from there, you can let the body inform you about what's really going on underneath. And from that place, begin to make lasting changes so that instead of just making yourself get up off the couch, you you come from that place of, okay, I've had enough rest. Now I can get up and move. Or, okay, now I need to stop working on the computer, or I need to stop pushing, 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 taking one more appointment, doing one more thing, that it is time to rest and reset.
Oh, yeah, so important to listen. And you mentioned heart coherence. What is that? And that you said working from inside out, not from top to the bottom.
Top
Uh,
down, yeah,
yeah.
top down.
And then it's it's so interesting how like we try to fix everything using our brains, and how to find that ability to listen to our bodies and really be coherent with what our heart is telling us.
Yeah, so they have actually measured. So there is a frequency of zero point 0.1 hertz where the heart, the electrical magnetic field of the heart is actually communicating with the brain. So the heart and the brain are constantly in communication with each other. But research has shown that the heart sends more signals to the brain than the brain sends signals to the heart. So this is where if you're trying to use your brain to tell your heart, I mean, I've got to do something, it's actually physiologically, electrically less successful than if you're tuning in. So that there is a range of frequency. That zero point 0.1 hertz is a documented frequency. But from below that, from I think it's like zero point zero 0.04 to 0.24. I mean, that's a range of this kind of heart-brain coherence. And while there are, actual ways to, say, I'm going to breathe in for, 5 to 6 seconds, hold, breathe out. I found years ago with myself when I was first undergoing yoga teacher training that if you're stressed and having trouble, breathing or relaxing, making yourself do something else can lead to feelings of failure. Like, I can't do this. What are people talking about? I can't get this right. And by focusing on just your own rhythmic heart breathing, just by settling in and noticing, okay, what is my breath doing? Can I feel my heart beating? What is that pattern? And noticing that, you will begin to self-regulate. And just by noticing, then from there, the body will generally start to slow down. And if it doesn't, don't try and force it. I mean, just like think about feelings of gratitude or something that someone you really love, someone you really care about. Those feelings actually can modulate the heart rate, what they call the heart rate variability. So you can begin to shift your state. Once you've been able to shift your state of your heart, your breathing, from there, you're much more easily able to, again, notice other patterns of tension in your body.
Yeah, it's so beautiful when it just, yeah, feeling that. I've been experiencing it myself lately that if I feel I cannot take a deep breath, I was like, all right, I have to probably pause and see what's going on with myself and maybe just put my shoulders back. Maybe I was hunching over, or maybe I was doing more the diaphragmatic breathing than with my core. But if we're somebody going through relationship change or career transition or divorce, or maybe somebody like at Whole Wellness, we work mostly with domestic violence survivors. How can somebody catch that? And what maybe something that they can do? And you mentioned being in the present moment, catching the breathing, the heartbeat. What else can somebody does to get out of that tension and I cannot breathe, I cannot think, I cannot do anything. I'm just so not in the coherence, not anywhere. I cannot just be connected.
Yeah, in that complete, fight, flight, freeze survival mode. Well, I always go back to teaching, really focusing on the heart, focusing on your breath. And because that is the biggest place that you can go. I mean, from that, I also have been really working, I'm certified in manual lymph drainage, and the lymph system interacts directly with the autonomic nervous system and is a great way to shift into a parasympathetic state also. So there are lots of techniques, but if you really want something to actually do, um, after focusing on your heart and your breath, um, the lymph system in the cervical, the armpit, the groin area, when your lymph system is stuck, the fluid in your cells, in your fascia system is not flowing and not moving. So again, all of these things are looping into states of a flight, stress. And you're not going to think from that place. You're going to perpetuate those feelings of trauma and dis-ease in the body. So a very simple technique is using your palm. You can just put your hand right at your neck, and it's just like kind of like a press, squeeze, lift. So clearing both sides, that's something that you can gently do to yourself while focusing on your breath. I mean, and you can do this in the car, at a stoplight. You can do this anywhere. So it's not like you have to get out a yoga mat. It's not like you have to put on any special music. You can just do these things, self-calming techniques, until you can get to a place where you have time to do a more focused practice of whether that's journaling or art doodling or movement or just going for a walk.
Ah, so helpful. And I tried this. It feels so good. Yes, all these little things that make a big impact. And I first want to ask your take on perfectionism about this, because what first I thought was like when you mentioned you can do it in the car, and at times I do tapping. It was so funny. I caught myself being a flight of and fight, and then I was doing the tapping, and I turned and the woman in the car next to me at the light was doing the same thing. We
Oh,
were laughing so hard and just like waved at each other. That was such a great moment. But a part of me, I'm a recovering perfectionist, and I think, oh, I have to have a certain routine in place if I start doing this. I have to basically be perfect to do these things. And what you're suggesting is so doable and so wonderful, that is far away from perfectionism. And you said that only you cannot, I'm going to quote you, you said, don't have outward solution for perfectionism, only inward one. And can you please walk us through that? I'm going to be taking notes because I really have a hard time just do one thing. It's something easy in the car or something, and then I procrastinate because I want it to be perfect.
yeah, perfectionism was so challenging for me to get over. And I think we live in a society that values being able to do everything all at once, all the time. That values doing two, three things at once, two, three things at once perfectly, which totally sets you up for failure. And again, even with like a lot of these techniques of do this to get that, breathe this way to calm your nervous system, do these stretches, do this, do that. And it's not that I don't utilize techniques and give people techniques to work with, but it's a state change. So if you can get into, again, more of a parasympathetic state, you're going to be in a state where you can actually access, the tiniest little bit of gratitude, the tiniest little bit of safety. Perfectionism control is the way we try to feel safe. I mean, it can be a way to try and feel safe in the world, is to have a structure. And if you're trying to do it again from your head, from a top-down approach, you're setting yourself up for a lot more difficult road than if you can settle into your nervous system first. From that state, decide, let your body inform you about what you need, because it may need rest or it may need movement. If you've sat all day and you're feeling agitated because you've been on the screen, if you can just pause for a moment, it can tell you, you need to go for a walk or you need to do some other movement practice. But if you've been rushing, going all day, your body's going to give you a different signal. It's going to tell you it needs something different. At that point, it might say, no, you need to go down. You need to lie down, take a rest. Or maybe you need to eat something. Maybe you haven't given yourself any nutritious food and you've just been, burning the candle at both ends. So the body will inform you and tell you what you need if you learn to take the time and to really listen to it.
Oh, so valuable. And I switch between working with my head a lot and just like, okay, I have to do da 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 da, and then moving into my body. I'm doing better job listening, and it takes practice, a lot of practice. And I was one of those people who would brush off for signs of getting sick or not feeling well. Just, I gotta push through this. And you mentioned ease versus dis-ease, and it's such a striking phrase. And a lot of us can really look over and miss completely that signs our body is telling us that we're going towards the dis-ease, and how we misinterpret, ignore them. What would be your suggestion to just how to listen? Basically, it just goes down to how to listen to yourself, how to listen to your body, get from here to here, connect those, and move on.
It's a practice. So again, we're all breathing. I mean, we're breathing all the time. So the simplest thing, and I mean, if you can find a way that works for you, like when you're brushing your teeth, you're checking in with your heart, or every time you're at a stoplight, you're, checking in, or if you have to set a timer, which might work, but if it feeds into perfectionism, that's not going to work. So it's finding a place where you can just start to notice. And then from that, noticing, you begin to feel what your body is saying to you. You start to hear the whispers. If you hear the whispers, you catch what's happening before the body starts to scream. And the body holds those emotions. So what you're feeling in your body may not be because you walked too much, you did too much. It may be because you've been trying to hold on too long you've been shoving down something that you need to say, and you're feeling tightness and constriction in your neck. And then now you have a headache. And then now, you're feeling sick to your stomach, because you've now cycled through all of this, because the body is continually dumping hormones, giving biochemical signals throughout the body. So the more you can begin to develop a relationship with your own body, the greater your vocabulary for I guess, your barometer of how you are, how you're feeling, how your body's feeling, what your emotions are telling you, just by starting that gift to yourself.
Yes, and I really like Japanese saying, when washing a cup, think of a cup.
Yes.
And it's same as brushing teeth. I notice sometimes a lot of thoughts are racing through, and I completely don't pay attention. But then it was like, if I bring that into listening how my brush buzzes or how it just feels on my gums, it's like a really simple things. I instantly was like, I'm in the present moment. I feel something even just drops, and it's so simple, yet we don't really do that. And this week, and I'm sure for so many people, and actually so many people I talk to, anxiety has been really through the roof, and it's been like a roller coaster of emotions and so many conflicts and people saying things they didn't mean to say. And it's been interesting, maybe because of the Lunar New Year, the eclipse, and all of the cosmic things that's been happening. But what's been very helpful, finding that inner stillness. And you mentioned that in our previous conversation, that inner awareness is a key, and yet we intellectually understand that, but also we cannot really experience true inner stillness. So how would you guide someone who just find in their inner stability, find in their inner stillness and connection with self?
It depends. I really feel like, it's kind of person specific, really. But as a general rule, if you really are finding that you're having trouble finding any kind of inner stillness, I say just notice your body when it moves. So as you're walking around the house, or you're going for a walk, or like at the grocery store and you're standing there in line, notice what your body is actually physically doing. So are you standing on one hip? Are you hiking out to the side? Or are you constantly tapping your feet? Are you constantly doing even when you are trying to be still? And don't judge yourself. Just begin to notice. Once you begin to notice those things, and if you catch yourself judging yourself, just say, okay, that's where I'm at. From there, then begin to practice. Okay, what would happen if I change this pattern? If instead of sinking into my right hip, I just stand up tall. Um, if my eyes are darting around all over the place, what happens if I just, look at one thing for one moment and then begin to notice those aspects? And don't try not to judge yourself. I mean, just take note, just begin to be the observer. And then from that observer state, then begin to get curious. Well, what happens if I am still? If I can really notice my breath, what happens if I do try and change my breath pattern? Or if I do try and not say something, don't yell at my partner, just notice, just become the witness observer and see what happens from there.
Yeah, very powerful place to be at, observing and noticing, and especially noticing patterns that we repeat, and sometimes we're aware of them, but we cannot really break through, or we're doing something and we're not really aware it's a pattern that we developed. And you integrate physical therapy, Pilates, yoga, coaching, and they address same thing from different angles, which is my personal approach as a divorce coach. You gotta address the issue from different angles. And in general, that physical movement patterns, they reflect the deeper holding patterns, the psychological and emotional mental patterns in our lives. So what does it look like when the movement begins to open up that contracted held space, and how Well, you probably have seen this in your own work, and maybe you can share some examples of that.
Yeah. So, from a physical therapist background, most people are coming to me initially with, an actual physical ache or pain, and it could be an actual injury. But most of the time, unless you were a elite athlete and everything was working just perfectly together, an injury is just a window into what else is going on deeper. So if you've been pushing, 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 and then suddenly, again, you've been like told you have to do this, you have to do this, and suddenly you can't do that anymore, everything comes up to be looked at. And by checking into the body, because it's so tangible and it gives us so much information that from looking through the body's lens, everything else begins to show itself. And again, we're breathing, our heart is beating. So by focusing on that and remembering that more signals are coming from the heart to the brain than the brain to the heart. So when you are coming from a body perspective, you're getting more information to the brain to then process what you're feeling inside you versus coming from, I'm trying to figure out what is happening. Let the body inform the brain. The brain is such an amazing organ to go through some of the processing of what is filtering through. But again, we're doing it from an inside out approach rather than, a top down approach. Um, that to me has been so exciting to see clients have breakthroughs in their life that they think are completely unrelated to the injury that they had, but then realize that, yeah, you know what? Early on in my life, such and such happened. I developed a bracing pattern and then I moved through life like this. Well, because I moved through life like this, every time I reached for something on the top shelf, my shoulder impinged. And so once you get to that deeper level of awareness of what's actually underneath, this pattern changes, and then life changes can happen from that
And that is
perspective.
so fascinating. And I'm still wrapping my mind around that the heart sends the signal to the brain that is much stronger one. And how come we're so many of us designed that society designed, we as human beings created this society, that it's all happening here from the up to the bottom. That is so interesting how we got disconnected. And I feel I'm fortunate to have a horse. That was my
Mm.
childhood dream. And I notice once I start thinking through the movement and trying to break it down and not having fun, I feel the disconnect in my horse. He is trying to figure out what's going on. But there are moments that I can think the movement I want to do, and my body does something micro movement, and my horse takes that as the cue and he does exactly the thing, and it feels like I didn't do anything, and it's like we're floating, we're just all in
Wow.
so much ease, and it's so beautiful. And that's been my journey to connect what my trainer is telling me, and I'm relearning what I learned way back when I was a teenager, first starting horseback riding. And it's so difficult to break through those patterns of heels down, shoulders back, and being so rigid, as opposed to just move with your horse. Sometimes the movement is clumsy. and
Yeah.
and that is good, but having fun, enjoying this, and still being like, all right, I gotta do this because my hands are creeping up or something else, and I'm constricting my horse's movement, and just connecting those two. Oh, this is the best feeling, but definitely takes a lot of work and a lot of practice. And but that embodiment of thoughts is just right there. That biofeedback is
Yes.
absolutely. just the best feeling. And
Yeah.
um, but for somebody who's primarily living in the head, which most of us are, and they're actually trying to have the feel of their of themselves, that sense of self, what would be the first step towards making that shift?
I think you nailed it with the fun. Doing things that give you pleasure. I mean, connecting to the earth is amazing, like getting your hands in dirt, in water. But play, if it's, you know, making music, doodling, drawing art, if it's just, you know, watching children run around and play and have fun, whatever lights you up, however small or simple it is, again, that shifts your nervous system. And once your nervous system starts to change, everything is able to change from that point and actually begin to make a shift in those patterns. And these things are simple, but no, they're not easy. I mean, and I think giving yourself grace, really, it's like just saying, it's not a race, it's not a test. I'm engaging in life. And knowing that 1 minute of finding something to play is better than 0 minutes. So, we tend to, I think that we have to block off huge chunks of time. It's like we've been conditioned to think I'm going to work, 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 and then I'm going to take my 2 weeks of vacation a year, and then I have to play, 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 play as hard as I can, rather than just, try and weave something into your day every day. That became a mantra of mine is creativity first. I mean, like really schedule that, you know, in my day. Years ago, it was like, I have to do this because this feeds my soul. This is just as important as brushing my teeth, just as important as exercise, as, drinking water, eating nutritious foods. It's engaging in something that lights me up, that sparks joy, whatever that is. Find something that sparks joy in your life.
Yes, I've been working on that too, and it's interesting. I thought about this yesterday when my teenage daughter, she's on the mid-winter school break, and I was like, all right, this is the list for you to do. Please do those things like clean your room, go to this places in the house and clean those too. And when I came home, I had dinner. She was very happy, even though she texted me earlier that day saying that she wasn't feeling really well. She had a headache. I was like, oh my God, like it was such a pleasure coming back home. And she's like, Mom, you would not believe it took me just an hour. I was like,
Uh,
what? And you can picture the teenager's room.
uh-huh.
And she was putting it off. And I was like, how did you get from I have a headache to accomplishing such a big task, well, multiple tasks in just 1 hour? She's like, Mom, I decided to have fun first. And I was going to bed, was thinking about that, not just doing less of what brings me that was like, I have to do it because I have to do it. I have to pay the bills and all of that. But just like you said, weave in fun before that I have to do it. And it's such a game changer. And
Mhm.
so yesterday, after work, I went to see my horse. I just brushed him. I just stand by him and had some fresh air after the whole day in the office. And that was a game changer. So I could be a better mom. I could be a better at pretty much everything else, a better partner, a better creator. So it's so crucial. But there is a big but for somebody who is in the middle of chaos, health crisis, divorce, job loss, just finding that creative spark, fun, inner stability, um, it seems so not possible. How can they make that shift and be all right? That's fun. I want to do it, and just like have that mindset of it is as important as brushing my teeth.
I really feel it does come back to a nervous system, or we call it a state reset, that you can be telling yourself this all day long. And again, I think we have to remember, I mean, that really the amount of information that's coming from the heart to the brain is greater than what's coming from the brain to the heart. So if you can really just pause, focus on your breath for just a little bit of a time, and just begin to then from that point make a choice. Even if all you do is write down on a piece of paper, okay, what the first thing that comes to mind, like, okay, this sounds like this would bring me joy, you know, today, whether that's, homemade lemonade. I mean, I don't know, just whatever. Just that point of letting your body tell you, not your brain, because the brain might say, no, you have to do this. If you can really just allow yourself to have an inside out decision come, whether you do anything with it, just allow yourself to start to feel what brings you joy. That's a window in the possibility of you finding that, just feeling, or maybe what did you enjoy doing when you were a child? What was that? Even if it's just daydreaming, like looking out the window for a minute, let that count. Let it be something that sparks joy. And I guess we should say that rather than just creativity. I would say what really will spark joy in that moment, in each and every day, something that can begin to shift your state so that your state of being, we're human beings, not human doing, to come from that, because that is what I truly feel is the way to begin to make lasting changes, not just a temporary change. Sometimes temporary change is what we need. But if we really want to make deep, lasting changes in our life, we have to really stop and pause for a moment. That pause is where transformation is possible. Just taking that little bit of a pause, checking in, writing something down, even if you can't do it today, put it somewhere where you can see that and then come back to it. Keep coming back to that. What's going to spark joy? What's my breath? What's my breath right now? What's my heartbeat doing? And go from there.
Yes, such important things I experienced this week being snowed in, and I've been wanting to go and experience snow, and it just came to the backyard. But I was so giddy, and my partner woke me up, and he's like, "You gotta come and see this." And I was like, "Oh, is it something bad?" He was like, "Oh gosh, no, you're gonna love it."
Oh,
And it was several inches of snow, so I started making the snow animals right away, and it was so much fun. Woke my daughter up, and we just went, played, just unstructured play. I made some hot chocolate, sat by the fireplace, and I felt absolute joy. And that childhood kind of joy that is so difficult as adults to achieve. And that changed my whole week, even though I missed work because of that. But I was like, you know what? I'm gonna change gears. I'm gonna work on something else on my computer by the fireplace while watching how the snow falls. And that was so magical. I accomplished so much that day, even though I had to pivot and make that change. So that's for sure is the key.
yeah, that resiliency that you've taught yourself, yes, it's okay. I'm resilient. And then you have something to go back to, an anchor. Those kind of things really can be an anchor when life feels chaotic, when things are overwhelming and you feel like, I can't catch my breath. When you settle, that's when those memories of joy can come up. When you're in fight, flight, freeze, there's no way you're going to be able to find those those resiliency parts of us, that part inside that says, hey, it's okay. That's a temporary state. Let's reframe. Let's find another way to meet life.
Yes. And also celebrate the small wins. So, for our listeners, please let us know what brings you joy, what fun you want to intervene in your day and weave in your day. And we will celebrate that because it's these small wins are so important. And I catch myself to walk the talk and really just be doing this. I was like, oh, I accomplished this today. Oh my gosh, I'm going to celebrate and move my body because, right, the studies are done that if we move and like kids do when they're celebrating something, when they're excited about something, they cannot sit still and be like, oh, yes, I'm excited about this. No, they move and their bodies crave more and more of this, and we somehow forget about this as adults. And the last question I want to ask you is, so for somebody who's like chronically stressed and chronically cannot seem to find that little joys, or I don't know, like for me this morning, I found this sweater. I kind of forgot about this, but I was like, oh my gosh, this is my favorite sweater. It's like, oh, I feel so good. I feel so good. And I wasn't able to do it when I was in just living in chronic stress and healing from trauma. So, what do you usually recommend people getting? Yes, getting joy, having fun, concentrating on breathing, but that mindset shift of that inside out. If you can summarize everything we talked about, and I know it's a big question, um, something that people can take away from our conversation.
I feel like we're all trying to feel safe enough to feel. And I'm actually working on right now um, some meditations, some that will be uploaded to Spotify and an album and Apple Music. But if you can just really access some way to feel safe, and I truly feel like it has to come from your body. I mean, use tools if you need a blanket. There are a lot of tools out there, but really it's finding that safety within yourself. And the research is phenomenal out there on heart coherence, shifting the nervous system, and then what we call co-regulating with another person. So when we can really feel safe enough within ourselves, we can meet the world. And even if someone else is stressed out, we don't have to take that on. It's almost like a force field because the field of the heart extends about 3 feet. So when you can really tap in there, it's like you have this giant force field of gratitude, of love, of safety that is like a big giant blanket around you. Um, but this is where I feel like if you're really struggling, working with a life coach, or if it needs to be a therapist, if you need someone to be able to help you hold space for yourself, that's where the power of another individual can come in if you find that you're struggling to do that on your own. And that's why I really feel like what whole wellness coaching, what you guys are providing, that there is help, there is assistance available to help you find the tools that you need so that you can meet the world from the inside out. Which is why I feel it's important that I like to offer some of my time, some spaces available with whole wellness coaching that if anything I've said resonates and you feel like you would really like a little bit of assistance in discovering your own tools and what is unique to you to meet the world. I think that's an incredible offering.
Yes, yes, absolutely. And you can find us at www.wholewellnesscoaching.org, and we provide various services, life coaching, as with one-on-one with coaches like Heather, and group coaching, workshops, courses, AI coaching. We really want to make the difference in the world. We really are behind what we preach, that we not only share the techniques, we share that space. And like Heather, you said it so beautifully, we all want space to feel, that safe space to feel, and that's exactly what we're providing. And whether you're working with a therapist or life coach, physical therapist, your doctor, you're feeling safe, that is the key for healing and for the whole wellness living. And we would love to hear from you. We would love to have you on the platform with us and experience what life coaching can do for you. And then have us as the bridge from where you're at right now to where you want to go. It would be our pleasure and biggest honor to have you with us. And again, www.wholewellnesscoaching.org. And that's a wrap for today's Inside Whole Wellness Talk, raw, real, unfiltered. Thank you for joining us today, Heather. You're absolute blast. I enjoy our conversations so much. Thank you for sharing your knowledge, your wisdom, and walking us through how to live from inside out and how achieve that heart coherence. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dasha.